To the uninitiated, Pokemon may seem like a squeaky clean franchise. Look at this cute yellow mouse. You think he's ever done anything bad? Yes, actually. Many things, in fact. Today's topic is some instances of Pokemon controversies, and occasionally judge whether or not these controversies were deserved. We start with religious communities claiming that Pokemon is demonic. You may have at one point heard the term Pokemania, the term for the craze that occurred when Pokemon first came to the US. Pokemon was basically an overnight hit with American children, but this also led to a lot of backlash from those who didn't understand it. Keep in mind that relations between the US and Japan were different then. Stuff like anime and of course Pokemon were still relatively new, and while Nintendo had made a name for itself in the US, what with other franchises like Mario and The Legend of Zelda, they weren't nearly as anime as Pokemon is. So what happens when kids are into something adults don't understand? You get religious communities, especially Christian or Catholic ones, claiming that Pokemon is unholy and should be kept away from children. Here are some of the claims these people tried to make about Pokemon. You may know how Pokemon was claimed to promote violence. Even outside religious groups, you'd often hear these claims being made, and I could see why someone would jump to this conclusion. After all, the main draw of the games are the battles and catching Pokemon, but the franchise has shown that it isn't so black and white. Literally, with many portrayals showing how symbiotic things truly are. Religious groups, though, took this to a whole new level, comparing Pokemon to demons who are called upon to perform tasks. And with how badges are required for higher leveled Pokemon, they've been compared to magical talismans. And of course, Pokemon evolving goes against creationist beliefs. You can even find videos of pastors denouncing Pokemon on YouTube. Most of them are fairly old since they took place in the 90s. But there are some from when Pokemon Go formed a new Pokemania, and watching some of these videos, it's clear these people know nothing.
This thing is actually called Poliwhirl, but they actually had another name for it before they renamed it. When this creature first came out, it was called Hypno.
Reminder, Poliwhirl was never named Hypno. Hypno's another Pokemon. Poliwhirl was going to be Aquanaut before they changed it. But that's not the only dumb claim this guy tried to make. He also said that Poliwhirl's swirl is meant to be a hypnotic wheel, but it's actually a reference to the clear belly some Poliwogs have, allowing you to see their swirl-shaped intestines. He then goes off topic for a bit to talk about Magic the Gathering, all because the Pokemon TCG used to be made by the same company. He did eventually return to Pokemon, all just to go incel mode.
This is Misty, and she's described as Ash's companion, and listen to what it says about her. She's headstrong and stubborn, constantly arguing with Ash. Typical woman.
But amazingly, in 2000, the Pope completely dunked on people like this, stating there's nothing wrong or anti-religion about Pokemon.
Headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks.
Not sure what he's on about, those are my kind of people. This next section is kind of cheating since I'll discuss multiple subjects, but consider it a 3-for-1 deal. These are 3 Pokemon who have a notorious history in the franchise. Kadabra in the TCG, Jynx's original design, and Porygon in the anime. In 2000, the illusionist Uri Geller sued Pokemon over Kadabra. The reason for this is he believed Kadabra was based on his likeness, claiming that he was turned into an evil occult Pokemon. Now, Kadabra's Japanese name is Younger, which kind of sounds similar, and like Kadabra, Uri Geller is known to bend spoons with his mind. So because of these similarities, Geller sued for £6,000. Thankfully, the lawsuit was dismissed in 2003, but it still likely scared off Pokemon from printing Kadabra cards. And in most games, an Everstone can't prevent Kadabra from evolving. That is, until 2020, when Uri Geller apologized for his lawsuit. This led to Kadabra being printed in the TCG again. Next is Jynx, who may have the most infamous original design in Pokemon. At the start of the franchise, Jynx actually had black skin. This led to many claims that Jynx was actually based on blackface. And because of this controversy, Jynx was changed to purple in Gen 2. And this wouldn't be the last time Pokemon was accidentally racist, as in Gen 5, Lenora, the first black gym leader in Pokemon, would also receive backlash for her original design. Lenora's original design had her wearing a large apron on the front, which added with her dark skin and headband wrapped around her head, led to claims that Lenora was based on a black woman stereotype. But next is the Porygon controversy, which I believe to be the most unjustified controversy of the video. In 1997, an episode titled Electric Soldier Porygon aired in Japan, but it never aired outside Japan because the episode caused seizures. In the episode, Ash and Co are sent to cyberspace to stop Team Rocket, where there's multiple scenes where red and blue lights are quickly flashed, and the main scene everyone knows about is when missiles are blown up. This caused over 600 kids watching the episode to go to the hospital. As a consequence, the Pokemon anime was not aired for 4 months, and the episode was banned from ever airing again. But the most significant ban, which I believe to have been unjustified, is that Porygon and their evolution line were banned from the anime. And why do I think this was unjustified? Because Porygon did nothing wrong. It was Pikachu who blew up the missiles and caused the epileptic lights. But no, our favorite yellow rat can't face the consequences of his actions. So instead, poor little Porygon had to be the scapegoat. And in 2020, the Pokemon Twitter tried to acknowledge this mistake, but freaking blue-haired liberals on X.com weren't ready to hear the truth. Screw you, woke mob. Porygon did nothing wrong. Will this little guy ever get any justice? They're back! Now for the most recent controversy of the video. The controversy surrounding 2023's World Championship. There were two things that made 2023's Worlds a bit problematic. The mismanagement of the event as a whole, and the new precedent it set for how players are able to build their teams. After Worlds, many players complained about the extremely long lines, particularly how the lines took several hours waiting in 90-degree heat. James Beck, a well-known player, explained his experiences with Worlds. Notably, he had trouble even getting into the championships to compete, leading to him only having 5 minutes to prepare for the tournament. And as if not getting to enter tournament grounds wasn't bad enough, the tournament itself was also poorly managed, with many of the top 16 matches disconnecting at some point. So many matches were turned into a sudden death round. The poor organization of the 2023 Worlds was huge, and luckily it seems like Worlds this year went a lot more smoothly. But there was another issue everyone was discussing last year. It was how multiple players were disqualified for using hacked Pokemon. 2023 had a record number of players disqualified for using hacked teams. Now, this is a very contentious topic because of no one in particular, so I'll try to keep this brief and stick to the facts. For many years, some players have hacked their teams in to save time and potentially money if players don't already have certain games. Note that these Pokemon aren't stronger than legit Pokemon. Hacking Pokemon is just to save the time it takes to get them legitimately. But in 2023, Worlds was a lot more strict with scanning hacked Pokemon. As hacked Pokemon are against the rules, these players were disqualified, and this caused a huge discussion on whether or not this was right. Now for this next controversy, we actually discuss a pretty heavy topic. This next section involves infants and young children suffocating, so if you don't want to hear about that, feel free to skip to the next section. In 1999, Pokemon had a toy deal with Burger King, there being 57 total Pokemon toys you could get with a kid's meal, and each of these toys came inside a toy Pokeball, something that, on paper, sounds like a really cool idea. But then, an unfortunate incident occurred involving one of these Pokeballs. In December 1999, a 13-month-old suffocated to death due to a Pokeball. It's believed that one half of the Pokeball ended up attached to her face. It covered her mouth and nose, forming an airtight seal. And unfortunately, her mother was taking a 20-minute shower. So by the time the mother found her child, they were already dead. And the woman's two other children, ages 4 and 5, witnessed the whole thing. The incident was so widespread that Burger King called the Pokeballs. This was partly due to the government themselves stepping in, with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission urging the recall. The company who made the toys would later make their own statement, stating that their toys met or exceeded federal safety guidelines, and tried to argue that it wasn't fully concluded that the Pokeball caused it. That statement would almost immediately age like milk, as just 10 days later, an 18-month-old also almost suffocated. Luckily, their father did see this and pried the Pokeball off of them, but this only furthered the movement to have the Pokeballs recalled, Burger King making a now infamous commercial about the Pokeballs, urging consumers to throw away or return the Pokeballs to a Burger King, which unfortunately would not prevent another suffocation, this time being a 4-month-old in January of 2000. Okay, that last section got a bit intense. So to end off on a more silly note, how about the times that Pokemon led to someone getting arrested? We first have an incident of a leaker getting arrested. In 2010, a 27-year-old man was arrested for leaking Unova Pokemon. This took place about 2 weeks before Black and White's release, so these Pokemon had not been officially shown to the public yet. But skipping over to 2016 with the release of Pokemon Go, we have a criminal being found thanks to the mobile app. The incident happened in July of 2016, where a wanted criminal went to a gym that was also a police station. He was immediately recognized and promptly arrested. The warrant for his arrest came from him breaking and entering, and then failing to show up to court for his sentencing. Now we have 2 incidents of people trespassing thanks to Pokemon Go. In July of 2016, a man was arrested for trespassing an Indonesian base. Apparently, the 27-year-old didn't realize he was trespassing. If trespassing an Indonesian base didn't sound crazy enough, 2 days after that, 2 Canadian boys accidentally crossed the US border. They were too focused on Go to realize they were illegally entering the US. Heading to 2017, a man was arrested for playing Pokemon Go at a church. Back in 2016, the man had played Pokemon Go in the Church of All Saints, that word, and he would have gotten away with it had he not uploaded a video of it. Apparently, the video was in protest of laws against playing Go in temples. Now, how about the police themselves getting in trouble? In 2018, 2 cops were fired for prioritizing Pokemon Go over a robbery call, though the incident in question actually happened back in 2017, where they prioritized catching a Snorlax and Togepi over doing their jobs. That's enough of Pokemon Go for now. Now we have someone being arrested over forging popsicle sticks. In 2021, popsicle sticks could be redeemed for Pokemon cards in Tokyo, and a man had faked 25 popsicle sticks in hopes of Pokemon cards. But what he got instead was a police investigation that led to his arrest. Then a month later, another Japanese man was arrested for forgery. Well, perhaps forgery isn't the right word, but the man was arrested for selling a hacked Sobble. The Sobble sold for roughly 4,400 yen, roughly $42 US at the time. But this wasn't the first time he had sold hacked Pokemon. He had made $11,000 by selling hacked Pokemon since Sword and Shield. And finally, a man was arrested in 2023 for stolen Pokemon cards. Not only had he stolen over $600 worth of Pokemon cards, but he was apparently already wanted for arson. Pokemon fans are weird, man. And there you have it, folks. 5 of the biggest controversies in Pokemon. How many of these controversies did you already know about? Which ones do you think shouldn't have even been controversies? Do you also believe in hashtag Porygon did nothing wrong? Let me know in the comments below. And become a member if you're interested. It's only $2 a month. Have a nice day, you wonderful people. Porygon did nothing wrong!